Howdy, folks. I'm Fair and Wise. Thanks for joining Consuelo and Ethan on today's episode. We're pretty sure you'll find it interesting. While you're watching, please take a moment to like our video and make a comment. Also, if you're not already, please subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell to make sure you're informed when we release each new episode. Now, let's get on with today's program.
All right, listeners, buckle up. We're diving into the world of treasure hunts today.
And not just any treasure hunts.
Oh no, we've got a really interesting situation here. We received not one, but 2 emails about treasure hunts.
Someone's really hooked on this topic.
Seriously, they're digging deep, pun intended, into how technology is changing the game.
And they've even got some philosophical questions about what really matters.
Like, is it the thrill of the chase or the prize itself?
Exactly. And to explore all this, they've picked 2 fantastic examples.
Okay, lay it on me.
There's Treasure Inside, a real-world hunt using a book as a map, and Ready Player One with its virtual reality Easter egg quest.
Wow. Talk about a contrast. We're talking actual digging versus digital decoding.
Right, you got it. They even sent over a comparison they did between the 2.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack what makes these treasure hunts tick.
What's the psychology behind them?
And what do they tell us about our need for adventure in an increasingly online world?
So starting with the psychology, both there's Treasure Inside, or TTI as we'll call it,
Love a good acronym.
and Ready Player One, RPO for short.
Makes it snappy.
They both brilliantly tap into our brain's reward system. They really play with our love of puzzles.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Think about it. Every time you crack a riddle in TTI or clear a challenge in RPO's virtual world, your brain gets this hit of dopamine.
Ah, that sweet, sweet dopamine rush.
That's what keeps us going, makes us crave more, keeps us pushing for the next clue.
So we're hardwired to be treasure hunters.
In a way, yes. But what's interesting is how the types of puzzles might actually be triggering different reward centers.
Okay, break it down for me.
So with TTI's historical riddles and cryptograms, you're exercising your knowledge and logic skills.
Right, it's like a mental workout.
Exactly. And your brain rewards you for those mental connections.
Whereas RPO often relies on quick reflexes and mastering those game mechanics within the virtual world.
Precisely. So different skills, different dopamine hits.
But the same underlying drive to solve, to conquer the next challenge.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the puzzles themselves. It's the narratives of TTI and RPO that also suck us in.
They both have great stories, that's for sure.
And what's fascinating is how they both aligned with that classic hero's journey structure.
Oh yeah, like the one Joseph Campbell talked about.
You got it. The hero facing trials and tribulations.
Like RPO's Wade Watts. You know, he's this ordinary kind of lonely teenager stuck in this dystopian world.
Sounds familiar.
But in the Oasis, he transforms. He becomes this leader, rallying others to fight for their freedom in the digital world. It's a classic underdog story.
It is. And we see a similar thing, in a way, with the real-life participants of TTI.
Oh, in what way?
They're not just solving riddles from their armchairs. They're out there physically searching, sometimes in crazy locations.
Talk about a real-world challenge.
It is. It takes resilience, resourcefulness, even a bit of luck sometimes.
So it's not just about brain power, it's about pushing your limits.
Exactly. And that struggle, that overcoming of obstacles, is what makes the hero's journey resonate with us on such a deep level.
We love to see an underdog succeed.
Right. It's that primal desire to test ourselves. And this ties into how both narratives use the treasure hunt as a metaphor for self-discovery.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
So the external search for treasure becomes a reflection of the internal journey.
I like that.
For TTI participants, it's about pushing boundaries, uncovering those strengths they didn't know they had.
Like, hey, I can navigate with a compass, or wow, I'm way braver than I thought.
Exactly. And in RPO, Wade's virtual avatar, Parzival, allows him to be this idealized version of himself.
It's like in the Oasis, he sheds his real-world insecurities.
And he becomes the hero he always wanted to be.
I can see that. The treasure hunt lets him step into his full potential.
Even if it starts in the digital world. And that exploration of identity, that process of becoming, that's something we connect with deeply.
Is part of what makes us human. Now, you mentioned something about how both TTI and RPO use intertextuality in their puzzle design. What did you mean by that?
Good catch. Intertextuality is when one work references or draws inspiration from other works.
Oh, like a puzzle piece fitting into a larger picture.
You got it. And both TTI and RPO are masters of this.
Okay, I need examples. How does it actually play out in the hunts?
Well, RPO is a gold mine of 1980s pop culture.
Ah, the 80s.
To crack the puzzles, you got to be familiar with classic video games, movies, even music from that era.
So you need more than just logic. You need a specific type of knowledge.
Exactly. It's like unlocking 80s nostalgia to get to the next level.
That's pretty cool. What about TTI?
TTI is all about history and literature. hidden artifacts, coded messages, and old poems.
Very different vibe.
You need a broader wedge of knowledge for that one. Different subjects, different time periods.
Both sound challenging, but in totally different ways.
And that's where the online communities come in. You can't be an expert on everything. So you get these TTI fanatics on platforms like Discord, pooling their knowledge, cracking clues together.
It's like crowdsourcing brain power.
It is. And RPO's gunkers are always collaborating in the Oasis, sharing tips, theories.
A real-life embodiment of collective intelligence.
Exactly. Like open source software development where people worldwide contribute their coding skills.
It's the power of shared knowledge and collaboration.
Which both TTI and RPO highlight so well.
But designing a good treasure hunt isn't just about making it hard. It needs to be engaging, but also accessible. How do they find that balance?
They each have their own approach. TTI is meant to be fairly accessible. You don't need fancy equipment or training.
So anyone can join the hunt.
Pretty much. Just bring your wits and a sense of adventure. RPO, on the other hand, with all its 80s references, might seem niche.
Right, you'd think so.
But the game mechanics are actually quite user-friendly. They welcome hardcore gamers and casual players alike.
They want everyone to feel like they have a shot at solving the mystery.
And that brings us to another interesting point. TTI is all about exploring the real world.
Getting out there, getting your hands dirty.
Exactly. Hiking, deciphering clues at landmarks. You're having a tangible, grounded experience.
No screens required.
While RPO is about escaping from the real world, the Oasis is this fantasy world where anything is possible.
It's interesting how both tap into our desire for agency and freedom, just in different ways.
Exactly. TTI offers freedom within the real world, while RPO lets you escape into pure imagination.
And this tension between the real and the virtual is something we'll definitely explore further.
Because it gets to the heart of how technology is changing treasure hunts.
And what that says about us as a society. Especially when you think about one of the emails we got from Melissa. She's a software engineer.
Oh, right. Melissa.
She's excited about how technologies like augmented reality could change the game, but she's also worried about losing that hands-on experience. You know, what makes TTI so special?
I get it. It's like if you're always looking at the world through your phone, are you truly experiencing it?
Exactly. But imagine if AR could enhance TTI. What if your phone could overlay historical images onto real-world locations?
That'd be amazing. Bringing those clues to life in a whole new way.
Or imagine AI tailoring puzzles to your skill level.
Making the hunt more challenging as you go.
Wow, that's next-level stuff. Is that the future of treasure hunts or just a fad?
Who knows? But one thing's for sure, technology will keep shaping how we experience adventure, blurring the lines between the real and virtual even more.
And with those blurred lines come ethical questions. Both TTI and RPO actually bring up some interesting points.
They do. Like in TTI, some of those hidden treasures are historical artifacts.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
It raises questions about ownership and reservation.
Who gets to claim those objects, and what responsibility do treasure hunters have?
Exactly. Big questions. And RPO, while fictional, critiques corporate monopolies and their control over virtual spaces.
It's like a reflection of those real-world concerns we have.
About tech giants and their influence on our digital lives. Like Climb is saying, don't think the virtual world is free from power struggles.
It's a reminder to be vigilant about protecting our digital freedom.
And making sure the internet stays a space for creativity and open access. We'll unpack those ethical bits a little later.
Okay, sounds good. But first, let's talk about nostalgia. Both TTI and RPO use this in interesting ways, and it seems key to their appeal.
Definitely. RPO is a love letter to the 1980s. Music, movies, video games, it's all there.
I love it. Total 80s nostalgia.
It's like a longing for a simpler time.
We're seeing it everywhere these days. Stranger Things, classic video games making a comeback.
It's like we're collectively seeking comfort in a world that often feels chaotic.
TTI's nostalgia is different though, right?
It is. It's more about that American frontier spirit. Rugged individualism, exploration, self-reliance.
A nostalgia for a time when people were more connected to nature, less reliant on technology.
And what's fascinating is how both types, while different, tap into that same longing for something authentic.
For something meaningful in a world that can feel superficial.
Exactly. So we've got the thrill of a hunt, the personal growth, the ethical dilemmas, and the nostalgia factor.
It's a lot to unpack.
But there's one more layer we need to peel back. That question you posed in your emails. Is the real treasure the prize itself or the journey?
A classic question.
And both TTI and RPO grapple with this in really thought-provoking ways. It seems like you're wrestling with it too, based on your second email from David.
David, the adventure blogger, right?
That's him. He's fascinated by the idea of whether the reward is in the finding or the seeking.
What do you think, based on these stories?
They both seem to argue that the real treasures are often intangible. The knowledge, the relationships, the growth. That's where the real value lies.
Okay, I'm with you. So for TTI, it's less about the treasure chest you might dig up and more about the skills you pick up.
Exactly. The friendships to make, the sense of accomplishment from cracking a tough clue.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Precisely. And in RPO, Wade wins this massive fortune, but he rejects Halliday's isolated, materialistic vision.
He doesn't just want to be rich and shut himself off from the world.
He uses his wealth to make the oasis a better place, a space for people to connect.
He chooses connection over isolation.
And that message really resonates with people who are tired of the constant pursuit of material wealth.
It's a reminder that true fulfillment comes from connection, from purpose, from making a difference.
And that's a message we all need to hear in today's crazy world. But we'll dig into that more later.
Definitely. I'm really looking forward to that.
Me too. It'll be fascinating to see what other treasures we uncover. You know, it's really interesting how these treasure hunts aren't just about the puzzles and the adventure.
Right. There's this whole other layer.
They actually offer some pretty insightful social commentary.
Like they're holding up a mirror to society in a way.
Exactly. And they're prompting us to think critically about the world around us.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into that. Where do we start?
Well, let's take TTI, for example. By specifically saying no digging is required and focusing on public lands, it subtly challenges the whole idea of land ownership.
It's like it's questioning why only certain people should have access to nature's beauty.
Right. It encourages us to see nature as this shared resource.
A communal puzzle box that's open to everyone.
Exactly. And not just those who happen to own a piece of it.
Now, RPO being set in a virtual world, you wouldn't necessarily expect it to have much to say about real-world issues.
But it does. And in some pretty pointed ways.
Yeah, like how?
Well, the way the Oasis, this supposed utopia, becomes a battleground for corporate control is a pretty direct allegory for what's happening in the real world.
With net neutrality, digital rights, and the power of those big tech companies.
Exactly. Klein is basically warning us that just because something is virtual doesn't mean it's free from the same power struggles we see in the real world.
It's like he's saying, don't be naive, folks. The virtual world is just as susceptible to greed and manipulation as the real one.
Right? And that we need to be active in protecting our digital freedoms.
Making sure the internet stays a place for innovation and open access.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's also interesting how both TTI and RPO challenge the traditional capitalist narrative of success and fulfillment.
Oh yeah, that whole work hard, earn money, buy stuff mentality.
They're both saying, hold on a second, there's more to life than just accumulating wealth.
Like those TTI participants who say the real reward is the community they find.
The personal growth they experience.
The joy of exploration.
Exactly. They're finding fulfillment in the journey itself, not just the destination.
And in RPO, Wade ultimately repeats that isolated, materialistic legacy that Holiday created.
It's like he's saying, I'm not going to let money define me or control my life.
Instead, he uses his resources to make the oasis a better place for everyone.
A more equitable and inclusive space.
It's a pretty powerful message.
And it speaks to a growing disillusionment with consumerism and the constant pursuit of more.
It's a reminder to focus on what truly matters: connection, purpose, and making a difference in the world.
Exactly. Values that are often overlooked in our hyper-connected, always-on digital landscape.
Speaking of the digital landscape, you mentioned earlier that technology is going to keep shaping the future of treasure hunts.
It definitely will. And we're already seeing how with things like augmented reality and artificial intelligence.
Our software engineer friend Melissa was particularly curious about that.
Oh, yeah. She was wondering if those technologies would enhance or detract from the treasure hunt experience.
It's a good question. On the one hand, you can imagine AR created these incredibly immersive hunts.
Imagine using your phone to unlock hidden layers of information at historical landmarks.
Or to interact with virtual characters who guide you through a city.
Or even to see historical events play out before your very eyes.
Whoa, that would be wild. And what about AI?
AI could be used to personalize the difficulty of the puzzles.
So it adapts to each player's skill level.
Exactly. It could even create puzzles that change in real time based on your actions.
Talk about a dynamic experience.
The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing. But of course there are certain downsides to consider as well.
Like what?
Well, we don't want to become so reliant on technology that we lose that connection with the physical world.
Yeah, there's something special about actually being present in the environment you're exploring.
Absolutely. We need to strike a balance. Harness the power of technology to enhance the experience.
But without sacrificing the things that make treasure hunts so compelling in the first place.
The joy of discovery, the satisfaction of solving a puzzle through your own wit and collaboration.
Right. Technology should be a tool, not a crutch.
And ultimately, it's up to us, the creators and the participants, to decide how we use that tool.
What kind of experiences do we want to create? What values do we want to prioritize?
Exactly. Do we use technology to deepen our connection with the world?
To foster collaboration and understanding.
Or do we risk becoming so dependent on it that we lose sight of the simple joys of exploration?
And the importance of human connection and preserving the natural world.
These are the questions we need to keep asking ourselves as we navigate the future of treasure hunts in an increasingly digital age.
It's crazy to think that these seemingly simple games, TTI and RPO, can lead to such deep reflections.
It's because they tap into something fundamental within us.
Our desire for adventure, meaning, connection, and legacy.
They challenge us to think critically about our relationship with technology, our values, and our place in the world.
And they remind us that the real treasures are often not material possessions,
but rather the growth, the connection, and the meaning we create along the way.
Now, before we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I want to leave you with this final thought.
I'm all ears.
What kind of treasure are you seeking in your own life?
Ooh, that's a good one. What are those clues that guide your path?
What challenges do you face along the way?
And what rewards are you hoping to find?
Are you searching for material wealth, recognition, or power?
Or are you driven by a deeper desire for knowledge, connection, or a sense of purpose?
Because remember, the journey itself is often more valuable than the destination.
It's all about embracing curiosity, challenging ourselves, and never losing that sense of wonder.
So to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has not only satisfied your initial curiosity about TTI and RPO,
but also sparked some new questions.
Maybe even inspired a sense of adventure in your own life.
Remember, the hunt for treasure is not just about finding something hidden.
It's about uncovering the hidden potential within yourselves.
And with that, happy hunting.
May your journey be filled with joy, wonder, and maybe even a few unexpected discoveries along the way.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those treasures that truly matter.
You know, it's pretty clever how both TTI and RPO sneak in these social critiques without ever getting too preachy about it.
Right. It never feels like a lecture.
They make you think without hitting you over the head with it.
Exactly. It's a subtle but effective way to raise those bigger questions.
Like in TTI, the whole focus on public lands kind of makes you rethink the whole idea of owning nature.
Yeah, like who really has the right to say they own a piece of a forest or a mountain?
And then in RPO, the way the Oasis, this supposedly perfect virtual world, ends up being controlled by corporations is pretty clear warning about what could happen in the real world.
It's like Klein is saying, don't think for a second that the digital world is immune to greed and power struggles.
It's definitely a reminder to be aware of those dynamics and to fight for a more open and fair internet for everyone.
Absolutely. And it's not just about social critique either. Both stories have this really refreshing perspective on success and what it actually means to live a fulfilling life.
Yeah, it's not all about money and status.
Exactly. They both highlight the importance of things like community, personal growth.
Like those TTI folks who say the real prize is the friendships they make and the sense of adventure they experience.
And in RPO, Wade ends up rejecting Halliday's whole vision of wealth and isolation. He decides to use his resources to create a better world for everyone.
It's like they're both saying, hey, there's more to life than just chasing dollars and climbing the corporate ladder.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in something bigger than yourself.
Which I think is a message we all need to hear sometimes.
Especially in today's world where it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget what truly matters.
So I guess it all circles back to that big question we started with. Is the real treasure the prize or the journey?
And based on everything we've discussed, I think both TTI and RPO, it's a pretty strong case for the journey.
It's about the experiences we have, the challenges we overcome, the connections we make, and the growth we achieve along the way.
It's about embracing the unknown and stepping outside our comfort zones.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of treasure hunts, I want to leave you with this one final thought.
What's that?
What treasures are you seeking in your own life?
What are those things that make you feel alive, that give you a sense of purpose and fulfillment?
It might be a passion, a relationship, a cause, or simply a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
Whatever it is, don't be afraid to go after it with all your heart.
Embrace the journey with all its twists and turns and unexpected discoveries.
And remember, the real treasure isn't something you find, it's something you create.
And with that, we'll leave you to continue your own treasure hunt.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
Well, folks, we hope you found today's video interesting and informative. Make sure to hit the like button if you did. Also, think about sharing it with another treasure hunter. And if you're not already a subscriber, please take a moment to do so now. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, and remember, there's a treasure out there waiting for you to find it.